Cyclone Tej remains powerful as it passes Socotra. Well, after rapid intensification yesterday, the storm did look unstoppable for a time, but it has halted and it has an eyewall replacement cycle to contend with, and is still a high-end Category 2 on the Saffir-Simpson scale, currently at 13.5 north, 54.3 degrees east. Category 2, 110 miles per hour as of 5 p.m. Gulf Standard Time this October 22nd. That's 175 kilometers per hour sustained, with an estimated central pressure of 958 millibars. It's moving northwest at 12 miles per hour or 19 kilometers per hour at this time. And with good agreement from all of the agencies on that intensity right now, here is its current position displayed on the map with its wind field, and so tropical storm force winds are probably occurring on the island on that southern semicircle, which isn't quite as large as the northern side of the storm, but still potent. It is just 91 kilometers from Socotra in Yemen, 253 from Abd al-Quri, 374 from Al-Qaeda, 390 from Salalah in Oman, and 770 kilometers from Dakium to the northeast. So this storm will continue to traverse towards the northwest, and the track forecast has changed slightly, favoring a Yemeni landfall rather than on the Oman side. So Al-Qaeda particularly should be watching out very closely for this storm. We're still mostly concerned about flash flooding as well as the winds, but up to 26 inches, 650 millimeters of rainfall along coastal areas of western Oman and now into Yemen, with significant amounts also expected on Socotra still, on top of what we've seen so far, just for a little bit longer. Heavy rainfall and high rain rates are likely to cause flash flooding, particularly in coastal regions, and of course this part of the world very dry. There's a big concern for landslides as well. So the next few days as we go through the week, well, it's a pretty straightforward track. It stalls just off the coast there, then it makes landfall and moves inland and dissipates very quickly by the time we get to midweek, before the storm presses any further inland really. So it sort of shoots itself in the foot by stalling just before landfall, which will allow the storm hopefully to weaken quite considerably before it actually reaches its landfall point. So right now 110 miles per hour with good agreement. India Meteorological Department also running with that. JTWC a little bit higher at 120. I think they may revise down later. And the ADT estimates are a little bit lower than that as well, in the 90 to 95 knot range, which is 105 miles per hour. So you can also see on that chart on the left hand side from the JTWC that other system in the Bay of Bengal. But here is Tej right now, and there's the JTWC forecast cone. They expect the storm actually won't weaken very much prior to landfall. I mean, there is that possibility. It is a concern, and certainly something that we need to watch out for very closely. It will be a very close run thing here, whether it will actually stall before landfall or whether it will maintain a lot of that intensity and then actually make the landfall. GFS there has a fairly straightforward landfall over that time period, and as you can see, very little left of it very quickly on as it moves inland over the Arabian Peninsula. Not only is it very dry, but also quite mountainous in this area, and you can see there's certainly hurricane equivalent winds possibly making landfall there just near the border between Yemen and Oman, and then very quickly it deteriorates and dies off extremely quickly. But certainly the potential for hurricane force winds, but I'm more concerned about the rainfall threat as we look at this big structure of this storm and enormous rain rates on that northern side, particularly when it comes in to make its landfall. So that's something that I'm most concerned about, and you can see a little bit of residual rainfall occurring as it moves inland afterwards, but it doesn't last very long. It is a very fine margin as to which areas will get the extreme amounts of rain and which areas might just get by just near the edge of the storm's envelope, as it were. And we'll go on to the rainfall expectations just now. So here it is, the track of the storm becoming quite apparent there, and those pink areas outlining extreme levels of rain right up towards the coast there, possibly including Salalah, and we're looking at high amounts of rain of up to 24 inches on that chart right now, and just offshore getting up to 30 inches, so that could be contemplated for land areas. 30 inches, that's 750 millimeters, and we're looking at potentially a further 5 inches on the eastern tip of Socotra Island. That's 125 millimeters. But as you can see, very fine margins. Our guider at the moment on this forecast, at least from the GFS, only 4 inches, 100 millimeters, but I think that might be a little bit low. Sea surface temperatures are good ahead of the storm. It's not going to be that kills it off. It's going to be possibly its own structure, but also of course dry air and maybe wind shear. But look at that, sea surface temperatures looking good, up towards 28-29 degrees Celsius. These numbers read a little bit low, so very warm as it reaches the coast of Oman and Yemen, probably up to 30 degrees actually. But where the storm is right now, it's about 28 to 29. So what paints the story the best is the imagery, of course, and you can see here it's a classic eyewall replacement cycle structure, and you could see at the very beginning that initial eyewall dissolved and this new one starting to take hold, or maybe not actually. Looking at those more recent images, it looks like it might have built back in a little bit, so very uncertain to see what exactly is going on here. And you can take a look at this imagery in real time on the Force 13 website, force13.com/satellite. But on the infrared, it does certainly actually look like that the inner eyewall did survive that, and there it is once more on the slider imagery as well. It does look like it's got a double eyewall feature at this time, the southern one, outer one, really plunging onto the coast of Socotra there, so they'll be getting some more inclement conditions and probably some strong winds there as well, maybe hurricane force. And then there is more recent imagery of the storm moving gradually towards the northwest. It's on a pretty clear path towards the coast of the Arabian Peninsula.